No Pun Intended Fantasy Football Highlights brought to you by the United States Coast Guard. Hey, we're a military branch too. Happy Veterans Day weekend, fantasy footballers, and with Week 10 underway, we'll be taking the opportunity to honor all of our fantasy football military veterans, starting with a team who is rising from the ashes back to league relevancy, the St. Louis Lot Lizards. Team owner Rick Horn is an aviation maintenance administrationman, first-class petty officer in the United States Navy, currently serving at Fleet Readiness Center Southwest in Southern California. His squad is finally on the right side of a winning record for the first time this season, after the Lot Lizards were able to slither their way past the ATLiens and the Chocolate Herd, marking their first winning streak of any sort for the first time this season. The defending league champs will look to cake on some of that patented Walgreens makeup even heavier this week, as they'll have a tough matchup ahead of them as they travel to take on the IT Crew. Team owner Jason Knoll is a U.S. Navy Information Systems Technician First-Class Petty Officer who has served at Coastal Riverine Squadron 3 in Southern California and is currently serving at Tinker Air Force Base in Oklahoma City. The IT Crew has had a bit of an inconsistent trend of data over the past 3 weeks, winning only one of their last 3 games after an incredible 5-game win streak starting in Week 2 of the fantasy football regular season. Most recently, the self-proclaimed half-smart bank breaker was just unable to set up any type of virus protection against the constipated leather daddy's fecal-covered malware. We'll see if the IT Crew can run the formulas once more in order to solve the equation that gets them back to their once dominating ways. Up next is a battle of vanilla versus chocolate as Saxon the City gets set to host the Chocolate Herd. The once legendary Queen of the Scoreboard is in the midst of a painful 3-game losing streak with a nasty loss to the ATLiens glaring in recent memory, despite the ATLiens unable to hire a kicker after firing Mike Nugent along with the absence of star wide receiver T.Y. Hilton. The task ahead of her does not get any easier this week as stars James Conner and Adam Thielen have been officially deemed out for Week 10. Team owner Bethany Horn held an interview and eventually hired Miami Dolphins running back and former Special Olympics 7th place contestant Kaitlyn Balaj to her active roster as a last-ditch effort in hopes to get back to her winning ways. Meanwhile, we'd like to take this opportunity to recognize Chocolate Herd team owner Josh Brown, a U.S. Navy veteran who was able to rise up within 2 years to the rank of second-class petty officer after beginning his naval career as an undesignated airman at Electronic Attack Squadron 139 in Whidbey Island, Washington, eventually taking over the duties as leading petty officer of the Logs and Records Division following a nearly 10-month deployment on board the USS Carl Vinson. His squad is currently in the midst of a bit of a rough patch as well, winning only one of their last 6 games after the fantasy football rookie was able to go undefeated throughout the first 3 weeks of their league debut. But nevertheless, we'll see if the black male strippers can grind their way past the basic white girls in order to get back to their once impressive ways. Up next, it's an old familiar league veteran rivalry as the ATLiens travel to take on the Bama Boat Snacks. ATLiens team owner Adam Siflinger is a U.S. Navy Aviation Maintenance Administrationman second-class petty officer who has served at Strike Fighter Squadron 113 and Helicopter Maritime Strike Squadron 41 in Southern California. Petty Officer Siflinger and league champion Rick Horn have a rich history together, going through the same division in boot camp, A-School, and their first deployment together on board the USS Carl Vinson. The ATLiens have seemed to have been able to come up with a nearly perfect recipe for deep penetration as they've been able to probe 4 out of their last 5 opponents. But it hasn't come easy for the Sifmeister after a crucial double penetration battle with the constipated leather daddies in Week 7 resulted in the ATLiens winning by a mere 0.1 points. We'll see if the ATLiens can extend their probe even further this week in order to keep their hopes of the playoffs alive. Meanwhile, Bama Boat Snacks team owner John Hawkins is also a U.S. Navy veteran who has served as an Aviation Maintenance Administrationman Second Class Petty Officer at Electronic Attack Squadron 139 in Whidbey Island, Washington, serving as a bitch-ass librarian and earning the nickname of the Demon Barber of 5th Fleet in his spare time while deployed on the USS Theodore Roosevelt. All joking aside, we love you, John. Thanks for your service. It's been an up and down past few weeks for the Bama Boat Snacks, winning only 2 of their last 5 games, due in part to a nasty dislocated knee injury to star quarterback Patrick Mahomes. But with the former Flying Spaghetti Monsters set to return this week, the Demon Barber of 5th Fleet will look to continue to make his matchups a nightmare for any opponent. Up next, it's our official game of the week, as we see whose team is made of Monopoly money and whose team is the real deal, as the number 1 ranked #money team gets set to host number 2 ranked Wide as Y. Wide as Y team owner Jason LaRoche is a U.S. Navy Aviation Maintenance Administrationman Second Class Petty Officer currently serving at Fleet Readiness Center West in Southern California, who is an experienced data-based analyst but yet can't seem to come up with realistic data in terms of how quarterbacks with mononucleosis can affect mediocre teams. The Dr. Pepper Guru himself has been anything but mediocre, riding on a 6-game winning streak, the longest active streak in the league. Team owner Jason LaRoche had this to say about his highly anticipated matchup.
Now you listen here, just because I'm on a 3rd-string quarterback, that doesn't mean this is over. Baker Mayfield will ironically enough be money for me, and my longest win streak of the league will continue.
We'll see if Wide as Y can live up to their words in this highly anticipated matchup. #Money Team, meanwhile, is on an absolute tear of their own, winning all but 2 of their games this season, comfortably maintaining not only their spot as the number 1 squad overall, but also the league's highest scoring squad by a mile, scoring over 200 points more on the season than the next highest scoring squad. Team owner Lamar Peoples had this to say about his opponent this week. Just like The Rock says, know your role and shut your mouth. We'll see if #Money Team can prove that their team is actually worth all of the hype that their team is getting, unlike other teams. Moving right along, it's a battle of pimps versus hoes, as the Bellingham Bimb Lesage travel to take on TBOs before hoes. Bimb Lesage's team owner and league vice president Nicholas Blase is a U.S. Navy Aviation Maintenance Administrationman First Class Petty Officer serving at DCMA Bell Helicopter in Amarillo, Texas. The defending Western Division champs have been sexually abused almost to the point of no return, with only 1 victory on the season, despite a strong 145.6 point performance against #Money Team in Week 9. When asked about his thoughts about his upcoming opponent, team owner Nicholas Blase simply tweeted out, quote, #hose before TBOs. Nevertheless, we'll see if the Bimb Lesages can show their opponents that ain't no pimp finna hold them down. Meanwhile, TBOs before hoes have had an equally rough season, losing all of their first 8 matchups in their league debut. A shocking revelation from the former one-time Fantasy Football League champion, but things are starting to look up for the pimp in distress, as they were able to finally earn their first victory of the season, extending their pimp hand all the way back and bitch-slapping the Vincis Earbiters in Week 9. Team owner Kyle Curry had this to say about his upcoming matchup with the Bimb Lesages. There's Super Bowls, and then there's toilet bowls. I've won a fantasy football Super Bowl before, and now I guess it's my turn to win a toilet bowl championship. We'll see if TBOs before hoes can keep their pimp hand strong against the Bimb Lesage's promiscuous ways. Last but certainly not least in our Week 10 matchups is a battle with unspeakably kinky sexual tension, as the constipated leather daddies get set to host the Vincis Earbiters. The The Earbiters are coming off the most embarrassing loss of the season, handing the previously winless TBOs before Hose their first victory of the season. The Earbiters will look to realign their jaws after winning only one of their last 5 games, as they seem to have at least a mental edge over their opponents this week, considering that team owner Tom Schroeder has multiple fantasy football championship match victories over Leather Daddy's team owner Danny Gilmore in various leagues. We'll see if Vincis Earbiters can gnaw their way past whatever fecal-covered strap-ons the Leather Daddies throw at them amidst this heated rivalry. The Leather Daddies, meanwhile, are in the midst of a pretty solid showing of their own in their league debut campaign, coming off a dominating victory over the number 3 ranked IT Crew in Week 9. And it seems that the fecal fetish creeper has made a full rectal recovery from the extra strength laxative that came in the form of a 0.1 point loss to the ATLiens in Week 7. We'll see what kind of surprises the Leather Daddies have in store for their Week 10 opponents in order to overcome their nightmares from seasons past. That's it for your highlights from the No Punt Intended Fantasy Football League News Hub. We'd like to thank all U.S. military members, past and present, for their selfless service. Be sure to check your lineups ahead of Sunday's games, and we will see you on the virtual gridiron.